Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is John, and before I get into the overview of this series and the content, I would like to give a brief introduction of myself. For the record, I have no formal skills training for working on small engines. Most of my knowledge and education has been self discovery and learning the trade on my own through trial and error. I've watched I've watched endless YouTube videos on how to work on different machines, which I'm grateful to have that experience. I've also been very experienced through trial and error. During the day, I work with students with special needs, primarily emotional regulation, behavioral disorders, and psychiatric needs. I've been a special education mathematics teacher for the past 13 years, and I finally started working with high school administration. One mission statement that I've held true in all my years in education is students need to be able to apply what is learned in the classroom to outside real world events. Most of my math lessons have been hands on, and I rely heavily on the trades as I feel they are more appropriate for the students I work with. While in education, I've always been working on small engines as a side hobby. I've introduced these skills to my students to give them experience with how to turn a wrench, which sadly is becoming a lost art these days. For me, working on small engines is a side hustle, but is also a hobby of mine to help me distress from my work days. I've been buying, repairing, and selling outdoor power equipment for close to 10 years now. Some years I've been more aggressive and successful than others, always learning each year. In this video series, I will provide you with all the knowledge that I've obtained in order to successfully buy and sell outdoor power equipment for a profit. Even if you're not interested in flipping outdoor power equipment, this video is still valuable if you are looking to acquire equipment at a discount, such as a new first time homeowner, or if you're looking to get into a landscape or snow removal business, main, or even just a side business without committing and buying all brand new equipment. I felt compelled to create this video for a while now, as I've been successful with this for a number of years, and a lot of success I've gained has come from many YouTube creators who have created awesome videos on how to perform all kinds of different repairs and work on various different machines. Just a couple notes about how to do this and if it's something for you. In order to be successful, and this is for the buying and selling piece, you definitely must be comfortable enough to buy or acquire the machine secondhand or used. And you also have to be comfortable with meeting individuals you know or don't know in order to make the sale. It's also pretty important that you have enough time in your schedule. If you are an individual who is working well over 40 hours a week, this probably will be difficult to do as time is one luxury you don't have to give up. I am blessed that in all the years I've done this, nothing negative has ever happened to me. I've never been robbed, jumped, hurt, or threatened, but I do know there is always a risk of this, and I believe you should all know that too. This is a side hustle that the more time you put into it, the more you should be successful with it. Unlike just working a part-time job at a retail store, this side hustle gives you lots of flexibility and allows you to be your own boss.
What do you think, Brennan?
I'm so scared right now. I'm gonna do what's sensible. I'm gonna file for unemployment, and I'm gonna try to get a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car because they got an excellent corporate structure, and they give you the tools to be your own boss.
So again, just like Rendenhoff says, these are some of the tools in order for you to be your own boss. It's the main reason why I personally do it as a side. Gives me the time and flexibility. I do have a family, and I can choose when I want to be more aggressive with the whole buying and selling, versus when I just want to slow down, really without answering to anyone. Okay, and finally, the why. So I enjoy working on the machines, but I found that outdoor power equipment is always in demand where I live. People are always looking to buy a lawnmower or snowblower and anything in between. I know a lot of people buy and sell a lot of different things with a profit in mind, and they do it either on the side or as just a main profession. People do this on a daily basis with cars, trucks, appliances, furniture, and much more. I like outdoor power equipment for a couple different reasons. The first is it stays outside, so I can easily store it in my garage or possibly over a tarp if need be. The second is the machines run on gas, so that means nobody ever has to come to my house to inspect it and see if it works, as I'm able to easily sell in public spots. The third is I genuinely get a rush out of taking a like new machine off the curb to be disposed of, fixing it with minimal time and parts, and being able to resell it for a large profit. Recycling, utilizing a trade, and making a profit is a winning combination for me. I have no issue selling other things online, but I won't actively seek them out like the outdoor power equipment. As my kids outgrow different toys, I usually put them up for sale just to get a couple few bucks. I've also got my feet wet with selling aluminum brakes used to bend metals for trim work, which I was successful this past summer with my first flip. Someone down the street from me does that the way I do mowers and blowers. All he does is aluminum brakes. There's a whole sub market of that, though, and I'm really not quite experienced, just to kind of add it to my repertoire yet. The only other thing I often resell that isn't outdoor power equipment is window air conditioner units. While this video won't talk about that in detail, so many people where I live just discard them when they work fine. I'm not sure why. Maybe to get an upgraded smart window AC unit that they can control from their phone. I try to get them when I can and have space for them. If I bring them home and if they don't work, I will always just take them to the local scrapyard. Most of the time they do work, and I save them for the first heat wave of early May, June, and usually sell them all in a day or two. I do sell them in the same public parking lot. I just bring my gas portable generator in my truck so that people can test and verify that they work. So I thank you in advance for watching or listening, and I hope you enjoy this video I created. I did add chapters if you want to skip around. Chapter 2, Tools of the Trade. We will now review some of the tools of the trade an individual should have in order to start flipping outdoor power equipment. Without these basics, it would be very difficult to consistently buy and sell outdoor power equipment. It's also very difficult if you're trying to buy used power equipment without having them. The first and somewhat obvious is you need a vehicle in which you can transport these machines with. I've been utilizing a small pickup truck, Toyota Tacoma, for many years, and it's served its purpose with distinguished honors. My setup does require ramps, so that it is something to consider as well. Something along those lines would be good. I've also seen people utilize vans, both minivans and cargo vans, SUVs, or adding a simple trailer to a vehicle. So these all come with their pros and cons. The smaller the cargo space you have, the more limited you are with the size and number of machines you can get. The idea of a trailer is nice, and if you have the space where you live to store it, I think it's great, as you only pay annual registration fees for it, as opposed to a second vehicle that you need to have insurance for. Again, where I live, it's much cheaper for an annual registration than the insurance. Trailers are also nice in that they are easier to load as opposed to a pickup truck that requires ramps. You can fit a good range of 20 to 22-inch wide lawnmower decks into your car if you're able to fold down the handlebars. Again, I've sold many lawnmowers to people putting them in all kinds of different cars. Depending on the condition of the machine, will determine how easy that is to do, as the hardware most manufacturers use, which is steel, has a tendency to seize and rust up. One newer alternative, although slightly limited, is the use of a hitch cargo rack that attaches to your vehicle's hitch. Specifically, one marketed for electric scooters and wheelchairs that have a fold down ramp. You can see that one pictured in my slide. This is more limited, but again, it attaches to your vehicle's hitch. Um, you're not paying an absurd amount of money the way you would for a trailer. You're also not paying for annual registration or insurance. Another added bonus to me is that they are easier to store. You can easily store it. But again, the offset to that is, you're limited to how much you can get with that in terms of machines. Many SUVs and trucks have trailer hitches already installed on them. If not, there are many inexpensive hitch kits that you can install on your vehicle. So I recently, just this past summer, added a Kurt trailer hitch to my wife's SUV. Again, it was under 200 bucks, brand new. I was able to install it myself. Again, benefit of having your own tools and knowing how to turn a wrench in just about an hour. The hardest part was planning a way to evenly lift the hitch with my jack and jack stands. I also did recently acquire a used Hallmaster, which is the Harbor Freight company electric scooter mobility cart, like shown. So I will be testing it out the next couple of weeks to see how comfortable I am with having some larger snow blowers on it. So stay tuned for a video next with that. Okay. Our next slide is once you have your mode of transportation settled on, you then need physical space to store the machines. So this one could be kind of difficult. Um, this can be difficult for many people, especially if you live in a densely populated area where renting space can be costly. So I personally use my own one car detached garage to store machines. At the moment, I am totally at the brim with snowblowers ready to go. If you have a family member or friend that has access to space, I would consider asking them. A couple years back, I used to utilize my grandmother's garage just because she didn't have a car and didn't really go in the garage. So it was kind of a win win. I have heard of people renting out spaces for this. Sometimes where you work, you might have additional storage or space that you can store the machines, assuming that your employer or company is okay with it. Because I personally have limited space, I have to be a lot more selective with what I'm taking in, making sure I can easily flip it or I know I will be profitable when the season comes. So it really doesn't make sense to store a bunch of 20-inch basic push mowers that won't make as much money as a more expensive machine. So there is a level of planning and being somewhat strategic with where and how much you can keep in storage. Moving along with our tools of the trade, as you get your vehicle and storage settled on. Now it's time to talk about the actual tools. I've been working over 10 years with a simple multi piece ratchet crescent tool set from Costco. As time has gone on, I've acquired many tools, both used and new, depending on different needs. I would suggest a great base or core is to get a mechanic socket set, as they now call it. So Home Depot sells a few variations from Husky for around 100 bucks. I know sometimes they have them discounted throughout the year during holidays. Lowe's sells their Cobalt kits, and I've seen comparable kits from Harbor Freight, along with all the different wholesale places such as Costco, BJ's. So these tools aren't professional grade, but for working on small engines on the side, you definitely don't need to invest heavily on Snap on or Mac tools.
I can't afford to buy all this stuff.
Well, I guess even a bonehead like you could understand that a man acquires this over a period of 50 years.
Yeah, but
All right, look, here.
All right. And then just to jump into a couple other uh, basic things that are definitely great to have that I found over the years, having a really nice screwdriver set, a workbench, a vise, electric angle grinder with the large assortment of pads and safety gear. Recently, I've acquired an electric impact wrench and a mini impact driver, and then I've gotten the respective drivers, both standard and metric. So they're all useful for these kinds of work, and you'll kind of learn it as you go. What are some of the tools that you need? What ones you want that are to be good? Lastly, the small items are important too. I like to keep WD 40, carb cleaner, shop towels, disposable gloves, and lots of different plastic containers to help with the draining of different chemicals, both gasoline and old oil. So, a lot of times, those plastic containers that you get from different types of food, whether it's prepackaged food or food from bakeries, they come in all kinds of different plastic containers. Instead of recycling them, I usually wipe them down and then I use them for if I'm taking apart a carburetor. This way, if it gets messed up, I could just toss it and I'm not getting my bench all dirty. Okay, so now moving on to adding inventory. Okay, so now that we have some of the basics sorted regarding what you need to transport, store, and the essential tools to work on with the machines, you may be wondering how to build up your inventory. The methods I'm going to show you are what works for me. Keep in mind, I live in the most densely populated state, New Jersey, right outside of New York City. Not everyone who views this video will have the same option that I do due to geographic locations. The way I primarily acquire my machines is through online websites and apps. So for many years, I solely used Craigslist, and I believe I had one or two slower years, which might have coincided with when Facebook created their marketplace. Now, I never had Facebook before, even though I technically was in college during the birth of Facebook, back when it was the Facebook prior to Justin Timberlake telling Mark Zuckerberg to drop the. I decided if you can't beat them, join them, and I joined Facebook in order to buy, sell through their marketplace. That really opened up the doors and really just kind of upped it to the next level for me. I will say a significant amount of where I buy, sell now is primarily done through Facebook Marketplace. In addition to using Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace to look for machines, I also use the website app OfferUp. So all three have led me to a number of machines. So the first mode I utilize is online. I would just advise being careful with online platforms, mainly the fact that something can be a click away, but turn out to be a lot further than you want to go to get it. So when I was younger, before my children, time was a luxury I had, and I wouldn't mind driving an hour out one way just to pick up a machine, especially if it was something that was flip ready and severely underpriced. Now, I don't have time as a luxury, so I try to stay somewhat local. If it's not local to me, it'll be local to where I work, and I try to only um, look for things that are in between with where I work and where I live. The last strategy with regard to online use is you can always post on Facebook or Craigslist just saying that you are looking for unwanted outdoor power equipment and that you would even pick it up for free. So, not every town, at least in New Jersey, not every town has garbage disposal available for the residents. So, sometimes it's a win win in that you are helping them getting rid of something that conceivably would have cost them money to remove anyway. And for the record, when I, cruise on Facebook and look on Marketplace, there are a number of individuals who do post, free, unwanted outdoor power equipment. I will come to you and pick it up. So there's definitely people who are utilizing that strategy. All right. The next couple different ways of acquiring your inventory if you're looking to buy and sell is the local ones just laying on the curb. So this is probably the one of the most adrenaline pumped for me. You'd be amazed at how many machines I've taken off the curb to fix and resell. So most people don't want to bother with paying for a repair or are just frustrated with the machine or are just looking to upgrade to a new machine, whether they're done with gas and are looking to switch over to electric or are just done with whatever the machine is that they're utilizing and they're going to either pay someone to do it or whatever. Um, Another thing that I kind of see quite often is that when a home is sold, it needs to be cleared out most of the time, and people will put a significant amount of stuff out on the curb. Lots of times there's nothing wrong with it. They just don't want to move or transport it to their new location. Additionally, most real estate closings require homes to be completely empty for walkthroughs on the day of the closing. So unless stated otherwise, the easiest thing for a seller to do is just to put stuff out on the curb for garbage to pick up, especially if they don't have a vehicle to move it out. So this kind of happened to me not too long ago. I was cruising around right in my neighborhood, maybe about 6 or 7 blocks away. I noticed a large amount of scrap metal on the side of the curb. When I drove by it to see what was going on, it turned out to be a bunch of older outdoor power equipment. People were nice as could be, said you could take whatever you want. They had said, I think the father who owned the house had passed away, and they just were simply looking to clear it out completely and to sell it. So it could be a real win-win if you find something like that. Not that someone passed away, but easy way to acquire some machines that people really want to get rid of. And the last method is the method that I probably use the least amount of time, but it still can be effective. This method is visiting different types of garage, yard, estate, and moving sales. So I've gotten some good deals using this strategy, but it can be time consuming. Another thing to consider is it's becoming more and more popular for towns to create a town-wide garage sale on a specific day or weekend. This can be good as there will be many sales going on in close proximity. As I said before, I've gotten some good deals at different yard sales before, but I've also walked away from many unrealistic, overpriced items. So, the one difficult thing with sales like that is you may not always know how much the item is, and you have to kind of go in and find out. Whereas if it's on the curb, it's free. If you're looking online, you already know the price off the bat. Now, from a systematic view, it doesn't make sense to me to just drive around aimlessly looking for a machine on the curb, even if it is on a bulk night or looking for a house closing. So that's essentially to me looking for a needle in the haystack. I do look up when bulk nights are in my town and neighboring towns, and if I need to take the more scenic route home, I will. This is a really good strategy that I've come up with over the years. If you know somebody who frequently drives in your town or neighboring town for their line of work, you can just ask them to notify you if they see an item on the curb. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's actually really effective. If somebody you know is a school bus driver, if they do Uber, Lyft driving, if they're a delivery person for a local restaurant, or even a local police officer, and they spend the majority of their time driving around during the day in the surrounding area, these would all be great people to connect and link up with and let them know what you are looking for. The use of cell phones like technology is great now since everyone has a camera on their phone and they could just literally snap a pic and send you a text to you with the address. From that pic, you can always determine if it's worth grabbing or not. So I've gotten a number of different machines just through people who I know that they know I kind of mess around. Buying and selling them, working on them. One good friend of mine, she thinks of it as like a game. So every time she sees them, she gets a rush from it too. She'll send me a pic with the address. If I could grab it, great. If not, it's all good. All right, now what to look for. So now that we've discussed a couple systems for acquiring machines, I'm going to walk you through what I look for in a machine and what I try to avoid. So I obviously look for the cheapest machine that is in the best condition. It's essentially the buy low, sell high model for every single flip. I look for machines that have been used by a homeowner and has minimal wear on it. Things I try to avoid is looking at machines that have been used commercially. Machines that are used commercially are usually more abused and worn out than a homeowner machine. A homeowner may use a machine once a week, whereas a commercial machine may be used 6 to 7 hours a day for 5 to 6 days a week. Usually, you can use context clues to determine if it's a used commercially or not, such as sometimes you'll see numbering, branding, multiple machines that are the same machine for sale as a lot, or just looking at the individual's profile. If it's a landscaping company that is selling based off a profile or phone number, then you're buying a machine that has been used for an individual to make money. When it comes to buying inventory, the old saying holds true: strike when the iron is hot. Where I live, multiple people I know and don't know do exactly what I do each year, usually with one or two new people joining the scene. So it is incredibly competitive, as everyone's really looking to make a quick buck with some of these flips. If you're not willing to go out and take a ride to get a machine that is in excellent shape and severely underpriced, there's a very good chance you will miss out on it, even if you blink. It's just the way it works. And you need to have that in the back of your head. Even if you aren't looking really to flip for profit, but you just are looking for a particular machine, a particular item, a tool. If you stumble across something that's really good and kind of expensive, and someone's really looking to unload it quick and easy with a really cheap price, it most likely will sell quickly, whether you buy it or not. Now, this is another strategy I've developed. Um, I've developed this to combat this to a degree, is with the use of digital payment. So this has worked for me on about a handful of incredibly underpriced machines. So as soon as a listing appears and you see it, if it's cheap enough or good enough, I will offer to pay the individual instantly through either Venmo or Zelle. So this won't work all the time, but I did successfully get a number of machines using this strategy over the past couple of years. So as soon as I bought it, the person took the ad down and I was able to get the machine when it was convenient for me. I would communicate that prior to sending the payment to ensure the seller is okay with the pickup arrangement, primarily the time and day. So there is definitely a risk associated with this strategy, as I didn't know the sellers personally, and there's really no guarantee that the seller wouldn't just take my money and ghost me. But it was a risk I was willing to take given how cheap the item was priced. And luckily, I can say all the times I've implemented this strategy, they all went totally as planned, with nobody ghosting me and me being able to easily pick up the item without rushing out the door, which is nice too. So one last strategy. It's a little older, somewhat tried and true. It has worked for me as well. It kind of stinks, but it's a good way of getting something. If something is posted and it's really really cheap, you can make an offer that is higher than their asking price. So sometimes this works. Sometimes the individual will quickly pick up on this and they might adjust the price higher on their own, especially if they're totally getting swamped and inundated with lots of messages and offers for people to buy whatever it is that they are selling underpriced. So it's worked for me over the years. It's not a guarantee. It's just kind of a nice strategy you can have in your back pocket by offering slightly more. And sometimes that might be the difference between them selling it to you versus someone else. Okay. So now I like to classify the machines that I'm getting. This is my inventory. So these are the three categories of machines that I've created over the years. I'm always getting a machine that can easily be classified in one of the three categories. And depending on your time and storage capabilities, it will determine if you are going to get or buy one or not. So the three categories are the first being at the top tier, ready to sell, needs nothing, starts, works, runs, just a quick wipe down, and you're flipping it. All right. That's really what I'm looking for these days. I don't have as much time to work on the machines. So I'm usually looking for top tier things that are relatively easy for me to fix. Middle tier is a machine that needs a level of work, nothing too crazy. Could just be a carb clean, could just be adding a bag to a mower. It's a level of repair that shouldn't be too difficult, time consuming, or costly. Um, Again, if I can't get top, middle is good as well. And then the last tier is the low level. So these are machines that are essentially parts machines, a machine on the curb that you can strip down, such as removing cables, removing the engine from a broken deck, removing wheels, etc. Any parts that you can salvage on. Um, Again, I usually don't pay for this lowest level. The low level I don't pay for. I'll just take the parts, and if I could store them, it's great. If not, it is what it is. So I wouldn't go too crazy with that. It is just good knowing how you can classify all your machines. All right. And then when it comes to the fixing and tuning up of your machines, so once acquiring all these machines, depending on the category it's in, will determine how much it needs to be worked on and serviced. So I usually work on all of them myself, unless I'm really stuck on it. That's happened maybe less than 5 times personally. I will say there's been machines that I have sold broken or just stripped it down for parts while taking the rest of the metal to the scrapyard. So I've always disclosed that. If you are someone who is interested in buying and selling, you absolutely can take it to a place to get serviced. So obviously lots of landscapers and other people get their machines serviced outside of their garage, so you can too. The reason most people don't go this route is because it cuts heavily into your final profit. Again, this is for the people that are out there looking to buy and sell, not necessarily just to own. Shops aren't cheap as they need to cover overhead, workers' pay, etc. So keep that in mind. I opt for the second option and just work on the machines myself. Having tools and workspace at your disposal, you'll realize it's not that hard or difficult to work on and service small engines. There are many resources online for locating parts, and every machine should have a model number and serial number that you can look up parts on the respective manufacturer website. Some are more challenging than others. I'd honestly say Toro and Aaron's is by far the easiest to deal with, look up, and get those parts for. So, anytime I have an issue with the machine or even the engine, I can most of the time look up the problems online or even look on YouTube to see if there are any causes and fixes for that particular machine and problem. My main goal for the machines is to get them in 100% working order or as close to it as I can. Once they work as they should, I usually do basic tune ups on them, including new air filter, oil change, new spark plug, grease any fittings, fresh fuel, complete wipe down of the machine, sharpen or replace the blade if it's a mower. There are ways you can save money with your tune ups, such as getting air filters in bulk, 5 to 10 at a time, getting oil cheaper by looking for deals online. The added bonus to performing a tune up is now you can list that in your ad description. Not only are you selling a machine, but one that has just been serviced. Even as simple as it may be to put a new air filter on, tilt a machine on its side to drain the oil, and change a spark plug, lots of people can't be bothered with doing it or aren't even interested in it. If you go to an actual shop, the tune up itself can cost more than what you are offering to sell. Buyers often sometimes just want a machine to work, even if it only gets through a season or two. It's also much cheaper for a commercial landscaper to buy a used service machine every other year as opposed to a new machine. And that's who I sell a lot of my machines to. All right, now we're on to the selling part of it. So now that you've acquired a machine or fleet of machines, you will now be selling them. This is usually the fun and rewarding part as the journey is almost over and you are about to be paid. So, some tips for selling that I found successful. I always post all my machines for sale on multiple online platforms. The same three that I use to find the machines are where I post the same add on. I'm a big fan of the cast a big net to maximize people seeing it model. So you can crab with one trap or you can crab with multiple traps. Having the same post on multiple online platforms helps you to find a buyer quicker or even multiple buyers lined up. You would also be surprised that there is a demographic of users for Craigslist, Facebook, and OfferUp. The second tip that I always do, and I alluded to it earlier in this video, is I always meet in a public location. For me, there is a multiple store complex a few blocks away from where I live. I do this for a number of reasons. The first is safety. I personally don't feel comfortable giving my address to someone whom I don't know. And when I tell people that, I quickly follow up with it's absolutely nothing personal. There are a lot of individuals online with other intentions, whether it's to rob you or prank you and everything else in between. I also don't give my personal location because people will ghost you and not show up. It's happened to me many times. It's also even possible for someone to quote unquote case the joint just to rob you. So I usually set a day and time to meet someone at the public spot. This way, if they don't show, you can leave knowing they don't have your personal address. Now, most reasonable people are okay with this. I've had a couple people in the past take major offense to this or become angered by this. I just simply tell them if they're not comfortable with it, they don't have to buy the machine. I always try to take all the emotion out of the process. There has also been a trend in selling online that has some towns dedicating meet areas next to their police station just because it'll have that 24-hour video surveillance. Some of the online platforms like Facebook, you can be a little curious and look at the potential buyer's profile to get an idea of who you are selling to. Keep in mind, there are endless scams and bots on Facebook. I usually ask the buyer where they are coming from to get an idea of how far they are and if it's legitimate or not. As far as negotiating price, that is entirely up to you. I generally price my items slightly higher since everyone likes to play let's make a deal. When you know how far an individual is coming from, especially someone who's coming far or out of state, that really determines how much you should be willing to negotiate, or for that matter, not negotiate. Usually, the further they are coming from you, you have all of the leverage, as if you choose not to accept their lower offer, the individual will drive back home empty handed, out their time and gas money. One last thing I do is I usually show the buyer the machine and I will always start and run the machine so they can verify that it works. Recently, I've begun to take a quick video of the machine starting up from a cold start and running with the electric start if equipped at my house and sending this to the buyer so that they can verify that the electric start does work along with hearing the engine running. It's also a great strategy to use if you're buying something that isn't local to you. Asking the seller for a video of the machine running will give you an idea of what you are buying, and it might save yourself some major headaches from the future. Um, Other real quick items, I always post multiple clear photos. I post clear, precise descriptions. Everything is spelled correctly. Exactly what I'm selling is posted there. Always put the fact that if you just serviced it in that description along with what you did. And another thing is if you have access to a laser printer, whether it's home or work, and you're able to print, it's a nice touch to print off the owner operator manual as well. Sometimes that's like a nice little thing that people kind of appreciate getting that. It also makes it look as new as you can make it. Last thing I do is sometimes you could help to, if you're selling something, to offer delivery, even if it's just local. So that has gotten me to close a sale on a couple of my items in the past. If you are loading a machine up in your truck trailer, cargo trailer, some people may request it to be delivered. So just a rule of thumb, I always still meet them at the original public place, go through with the deal, have them pay me. Then if they are nearby, I will deliver it to them. Some people will charge a delivery fee. I only do it if it's local enough. I would advise not bringing an item directly to a buyer's house prior to a meet, since you don't know if they will stand you up or, um, try to rob you. So again, you are out wasting your own time. Providing delivery will also help you stand out if your buyer doesn't have a vehicle to transport a larger piece of equipment, such as a wide two-stage snowblower, and you're making yourself more competitive with the local dealer or box store that may or may not offer delivery. I recently sold a quite large core aerator for your lawn, and luckily for me, the gentleman who bought it lived maybe like 5 or 10 minutes away. So I saved him the expense of having to disassemble half the machine, and I just delivered it to his house, which just kind of worked out nice for both people. As far as the communication piece goes, if someone from Craigslist contacts you, you can email back and forth. Facebook Marketplace has the Messenger app, and OfferUp has the messaging piece built within. For reasons above, I don't have garage yard sales as I don't need people to see what I have at my house or bring something back after they misuse something expecting a full refund. Sometimes communication needs to be made through the phone, although many times if it's through Facebook, they are just scams asking for your phone number. I do have a separate phone line through the app Google Voice that I use if an individual needs or requires it. Again, this just provides a layer of insulation for you personally. A couple other things, I only accept cash on my transactions. If you are guarded or unsure, they do make special counterfeit detection markers to make sure the bills are real. And just on a personal level, I do not accept Venmo or any other digital payments for my own personal reasons. So once you make the sale, you could reflect on it and see if it was worth it or not. Hoping that you made more money than you put out, it's a good time to think about, was the flip worth it? Was it worth your time? One thing I've been doing the past couple of years, somewhat inspired by another fellow flipper, has been to take yearly notes on what I sell in a log format. I like to put the item total money into it, what I sold it for, and the profit. So this can really lead you to focus in on what is more profitable and look for trends such as what brands make the most in your area. For me, again, personally, snowblowers are vastly more profitable than lawnmowers, although snowblowers have a very short window to sell, or else you are stuck with them till the following year. You also have to bank on a bad winter, which doesn't always happen. Lawnmowers have a longer window to sell, basically April, May to October, November, but don't always allow for as big of a profit as snowblowers do. The log is strictly up to you. For me, it puts things into perspective and allows me to plan on what I want to concentrate on for the future. I will say, since starting the log during, I think it was COVID 2020, I've been able to make more profits based off replicating the machines and their conditions from prior years. So it's kind of worked in my favor. All right. So I just went through the whole process with you. Um, what I want to do, we talked about selling the machines. What I would like to do is just kind of go over some notable flips that I've had over the years. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and this process that has been successful for me. This process certainly isn't for everyone, and this isn't a get rich easy process. This process does allow you to make extra side money without committing to a regular extra side hustle job. Over the past 2 years, I've taken some screenshots of some real nice deals I've got just so you know it is possible if you know what you're looking for, are patient, and are willing to use multiple platforms. All right. So this is one of my first notable flips. Um, the most recent notable flip and one of my most profitable ones was this Aaron's 30-inch snowblower posted on OfferUp. I responded quickly on a Friday evening and scheduled to pick it up the next day, again, striking when that iron was hot. Right before I headed out, the individual had messaged me to tell me he was unable to start it and that I could now have it for free. That quickly put some urgency in it, and I quickly drove up there. I realized when I met him, he was a very kind doctor just looking to clean out his garage. When I got home, I did my usual clean the carb routine, and lo and behold, it started and ran fine. So I did realize after all that work, and it wasn't that much work, it was maybe 20 minutes for me. I did find out that the electric start is what didn't work. So I'm guessing that's why he wasn't able to get it started if you never tried the pull cord. So you can take a look at the photos that I took of it to see how clean it was. Now, I could have easily just as kept this machine for my own self, but its width was way too wide for my property. So it was sold in maybe 2 or 3 days. I did a couple other very small things. The muffler cover had a little rust, so I was able to easily take it off, spray it with some high heat paint that I already had, put it back on. It was missing the shovel for the clear out, so that was worth it for me to buy another one for maybe $30. But again, super nice, clean flip. Just worked out well in my favor. The next flip would be this. This is a piece of specialty equipment. This could be quite profitable as well. This is something that I've been, kind of diving in with. Um, this machine ended up needing very minimal work. It actually just needed a new fuel cap and a couple screws for the air filter cover. So this one sold very quickly, very fast for a good amount. Unfortunately, I don't have the pictures of when I sold it. I was actually contemplating with this machine keeping it and trying renting it out, um, just for people because this is an expensive machine that Home Depot rents out. Why not? Why can't I do it? But for some reason, my gut told me just sell it, take the profit, and keep it moving. All right. This next machine, this Toro Super Recycler with the mow and stow. Um, so I got this one again using one of my successful attempts of the strategies with offering an instant Venmo cash option. Not only did I offer an instant Venmo option, but I believe I overpaid by $10, which totally was fine with me. So I knew this mower was going to sell instantly. It was at the time one of the best super recycler mowers that Toro made. At the time, it was probably around $600 new. So as soon as it posted, I offered to buy it with Venmo right now. The seller was a little hesitant, then realized it was underpriced and honestly asked if I could do 85, which I thought was kind of funny. I had no issue with that and quickly paid her through Venmo in a matter of minutes. The seller was great because she said I could pick it up whenever, as her house had sold and she was in the process of moving. So I got to pick it up a few days later and got it myself without the seller even being there. So I've personally kept that one for myself as I think it's a great mower. And having the mow and stow is actually a really great feature when you have as much storage as I do with all the machines in my garage. You could see the pictures weren't the greatest that the seller had took. It was dirty. It was kind of unclean. Here it is. I just literally sprayed it down. And like I said, I probably could have sold it for a good amount of profit, but I decided to keep it for my own personal sake. And then this is the last one that I did. This one was literally just a week ago. So let's see here. What happened with this was I recently purchased this Time Master off of Craigslist. It was only listed for 300. It looked good. One owner used. It had the bigger engine. Owner said it was only 2 years old. Looking at the location, I know that's a somewhat nicer area, wealthier area. So I was quick simply just to ask the seller if they had the bag, and the individual seller had told me yes, he has the bag and all the accessories with it. I quickly made my way up to where he lived. Maybe 2 or 3 hours later, because I knew he was going to get a lot of traction on it. Um, when I bought it for asking price, so I don't really feel bad that I flipped it. I didn't deceive him. He didn't ask me if I was flipping it. I just bought it. When I got it home, it definitely looked a lot cleaner than I thought. I wiped it down. I sprayed some of that good old Black Magic tire shine on it to give it that nice sheen and clean. I performed a very simple tune up on this machine just so that I could say that it was tuned up. What I did was I sharpened the lawnmower blades, I put a new air filter in it, I changed the oil, and I charged the battery utilized for electric start. So you can see the way I took my pictures and presented it. Nice, even lighting. Um, it looks nice that my lawn had just been cut, so it kind of blend in with the whole Toro timeline. I displayed all of the owner's manuals that he had given me, along with the charger, the accessories, the mulch plug, the side discharge chute, and the bag. So again, these are all things that help you to sell. And for the record, that one sold for significantly higher than $300, and I must have had about 30 to 40 people interested in it, with people lined up to buy it. There are two other Time Masters on similar sites going for about the same price that I sold mine. So, if you really clean it up and put it all together nicely, it'll definitely make it stand out much more than some of the other ones. So, those are just four of my many success stories. I've also had weird things happen to me in the whole buying selling process just because I've done it so many times. Once I bought a snowblower from a woman who had told me she was in the process of leaving her husband since he was abusive. Her words, not mine. She said she was in the process of selling stuff quietly as directed by her attorney. So that one definitely shook me up a little. On a lighter note, one time I was selling a mower to a younger gentleman who brought his father with him to one of the parking lots that I go to for all my sales. Now, prior to meeting with them, I was going back and forth with the son regarding negotiating price. He took me down a little bit, and that's all good. It's part of the game. So when we met, the father was trying to get more money off the machine for his son, and I just hang strong. That's all you got to do. Basically, saying it was already negotiated. Your son had already did the negotiations. The father really tried to strong arm me and use all kinds of excuses for why I should cut his son a break, saying that he had just bought a house, and I just wasn't budging on the price. So, ironically, mind you, throughout all of his negotiation, someone that was leaving the parking lot saw me in the mower and actually asked if it was for sale, since he told me he was looking for one. I could tell you this: after that, the young guy's father quickly changed his tune and said no, no, he was buying it and that it was sold for the price that I wanted. So in the end, I thought it was kind of funny, kind of the stuff that you really can't make up. And then wrapping things up, some final thoughts about this whole process. Um, you need to be comfortable working with your hands and working with people you don't know. A big part of this is interacting with people you don't know, and it's also a big risk. So, not everyone is comfortable with that, and individuals will continue to buy brand new equipment while just tossing out their old stuff, which I understand it, I respect it. It's just not what I do. So, one thing I would encourage people to do if you're looking to do this or are doing it already is simply listen to your gut when dealing with people. If something seems off with the buying process or even the selling process, I have no problem backing away from a sale or from buying from someone. Sometimes people are dishonest and don't describe a machine the best way. If you think a machine is not as profitable when you get there, I would just walk away, and I've done that before. It does suck driving out, losing time and money, but if a machine isn't worth it or not as described as you thought, it's just going to be another problem for you. So you can, if you are a strong buyer, use this to your advantage, and you can negotiate more off the price, which I've done before. I think I'm a pretty nice guy, pretty calm guy, but I've seen people get real hot headed if something doesn't work. Um, that's not necessarily my style, but for others it might be. So when you sell, if you believe your machine is working as well as you listed it, I wouldn't let anyone intimidate you to sell for less. I always leave room to come off the top, as I said before, but don't let someone try to scare or intimidate you to get the price lower. I've also had plenty of unsuccessful sales for a number of reasons. So I respect what I do, the time and patience it takes to make the necessary repairs, than the time and patience it takes to sell something. So I'm never going to shortchange myself just to make a sale, nor should you. The skills you learn from turning a wrench on small outdoor power equipment can also be transferred to other applications. So I enjoy working on plumbing now. And one real cool experience I had was recently my central air handler motor stopped working. So it took a team effort between my wife and I to realize it was the motor and the air handler. And I was in the process to call a service repair, but ended up canceling that because I was able to swap out the motor myself. Essentially, it's the same skill set. And I kind of joked with my wife that I thought it was easier to switch out the air handler motor than a carburetor on some of these machines. So again, that personally saved me a significant amount of money. I've done that with my old washing machine and dryer in the past. I've repaired things myself just looking on YouTube and with that skill set. So the repair it yourself DIY is something that I hope I can carry on, not only for me, but for my children. I feel again like it's a lost art. People just don't want to bother with fixing things or owning things or repairing things. But again, that's just my opinion on things. So this concludes my video. I hope you've enjoyed it, learned something from it, or at least found it beneficial to you in the future. Check out my other much shorter videos where I dive deeper into machines I like and why. Enjoy and stay safe with your future flips and buys.